Diane with Bolan-Beaty Boogie. This week on the show, I asked Marc if he would look into why there are still some in humanity who feel the need to be dominant over other people, who have the need to be powerful no matter what the cost is for other people. Deaths, destruction of the planet, well, the list goes on and on. So I asked him if he could look at this energy and talk to us about it, because my reality is completely opposite. I feel that everyone on the planet deserves to create the best life that they can. The planet needs to be taken care of, animals. So I mean, I understand from a spirit point where this is all coming from, but it's still, when you're living it, very difficult to understand. And also, because in spirit, I mean, we are all at different levels and frequencies and experiences, but in spirit, we all know that we're all equal. It doesn't make any sense that somebody could feel they're better than somebody else because of their skin color or because they're a certain religion. I mean, it's ridiculous. So Marc does talk about that, why that tends to happen. And let's see, towards the end, Marc was done with the show. And then when I got out of trance, I was like, oh, Marc, but you didn't talk about this one thing I really was hoping you would talk about. So I asked him to come back in, and he did. He did address that. So I hope you enjoy the show. Again, we do have a website, www.channelingmarc.com. Take a look if you get a chance. There's a lot of past posts before I was doing the channeling where we interviewed a lot of celebrities. So that might be interesting to you. And also, I have a spirit guide. I think I have a PR spirit guide now who is asking me to ask anyone who's interested in following our program here to click the subscribe button. Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Marc. I made it. Okay, yeah, let's start the show right away. For those who are new to the show, it was my last physical life. I was Marc Bolan from the Rock Band T-Rex. Now I am channeling through Diane's body. I have a team of friends here with me in our studio who I kind of bounce things off here. And we also have some scouts who are kind of our protectors, okay? Kind of. Okay, well, let's start the show. So this week, the theme of the show is how spirits, or why spirits, come into a physical body and then feel the necessity to overwhelm, dictate, and have an air of superiority. Okay, where does that come from? Is that coming from their spirit selves? Is that coming from being human? Is it coming from outside forces? Is it coming internally? Okay, yeah. So it's a lot to take on. It's a lot to take on today, but I think the show is going to be very interesting. Diane has requested that we talk about it and share what we find out. Okay. Yeah. No, I've got some guests coming in. They have led these types of lives, physical lives on Earth. And for all of them, it has been quite a while, but we're going to bring them in and see what they can tell us about this. Okay. Yep. So our first guest. Yeah. Yep. Here she comes. Okay. Yep. Very grand, very regal. Okay. Yeah. So your energy and so you're like a Catherine the Great, right? Catherine the Great. And then we've got, who's our middle guest is, okay, that's it, Attila the Hun. And that's it. And then our third guest is, oh, Caesar, Julius Caesar, okay. Well, we're saying, you are, okay. And we're not going to be focused so much And we might have some other guests with different viewpoints coming in if the conversation necessitates it, okay? Otherwise, or we might, they might come in. Some other guests might come in if the conversation takes a turn to something else, okay? Yeah. So we're not really going to be talking about your physical lives, who you were maybe, or historically, okay, what you did, or we're more into the emotions that you felt, or why you were motivated to be the way you were, okay. Yeah. So let's look at this. Okay, so in spirit, you're pretty much an open book. Right. Well, in the sense of you are planning a physical life, okay? Let's say that. And it can take very detailed, okay? Very detailed. It could be not as detailed. Some spirits come down and just say, well, you're not going to, you're going to have probably some type of intention. And you work with counselors, you work with guides to help you figure out how you're going to go about, to really not work through your goals necessarily, but to attain your goals. Yep, that's it. So let's say you want to be an artiste and you want to surround yourself with creativity, be very social, you could want to amass a fortune, whatever, okay? Let's say you come down into this life and it takes a turn to something completely different, okay? Something happens to you, you meet somebody, you get stuck in a certain situation, and things start changing for you. Your ideologies change. You're thinking to yourself, okay, well, no, this isn't, I'm going to start following this. This feels like it's pulling me towards it. And then you take it completely. Yeah. So how does that happen, right? Is it just a matter of course? Is it just a matter of coincidence? You were in this certain place at the right time and that changed your life. Okay, so yeah, well, it could be any of those. Or it could be something that you actually planned. You planned to meet this person. It was one of your trigger moments, and you could have decided to go one way or another. Okay, then let's say you get involved in some type of political situation, and it turns out that you get dug in deeper into certain situations, and you really start changing your beliefs, okay, about being creative, about being open, about being social, and then you turn into somebody who is very inner, who doesn't like to be social, who rejects anything creative, so it can change. This can happen, okay, this can happen. So we're going to look at how this happens sometimes, okay? And our guest, if you just want to give us a little brief idea about who you are now, okay? And maybe if you want to say anything about who you were, okay, Catherine? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Catherine is, okay, what do you want to show me? Yeah, because you're just showing me like a painting, an image in a very elaborate gown. That's what you're showing me. So yeah, I know. That's who you were. Okay, that's who you were in a physical life. Yeah, but who are you now? And how different are you? Okay, you're being kind of secretive about this. Why is that? Okay, so it doesn't appear that you're going to show too much about who you are now for whatever reasons you might have. Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting. Yeah. No, that's okay. But okay, you don't have to show me anything about who you are or who you might be right now. But can you tell us then? Yeah, because you came on the show, right? Okay. Yep. Okay. So, okay. So she's saying that she's hemming and hawing, because she's not. Well, it's not that she has necessarily, she does have some regrets. Okay, she does have some regrets. She is still, that was, well, there is no time, of course, in spirit, but compared to our other guest, this is a fairly recent physical life, and she is still working through some aspects of things that she did, and she's not proud of it. Okay, she's not proud of it, but she's trying to understand why she did things that she did. And she she's correcting me there. She said she understands why she did the things she did. She just is still questioning herself about why she did it. Yeah. So yeah, being an ultimate ruler of a very vast country, which had very, very poor people. And yeah. So, and she was fully aware of that. She's saying she was fully aware of that, but she felt it was, well, yeah. And she said a lot of people in her position felt that it was a God-given, yeah, we've heard that before, God-given. So she was placed there by God, or placed there by an ultimate, like a God, yeah, in order to rule. And it did not, well, yeah, and, okay, good. She said a lot of people in this situation feel that, that they were placed there by a God type of force, and that it was up to them to rule the way they felt, because they were given this power. So it was something divine. Yeah. It was something divine. And they were graced by some type of omnipresent being, and for a reason. And yeah, so how did it not enter into, so it's basically, and if you're born into a situation like this as well, she said that you're told that this is who you are as well, and that everyone around you shows you deference. Yep. And so you start believing it. You believe it. You believe that this is true. And you really cannot find a place in your existence where you are, quote unquote, a normal person. Right. And you do, and you would choose not, no, of course. Why would you choose to be that? She is saying, when you are in this type of luxurious, powerful existence, right? And so, so you're still kind of dealing with that, but you're saying it was what you were, she's saying destined to be, and and she didn't really see, and you don't really run across to the people who are subservient to you necessarily. You see them as a mass, or something to be quelled. Because and not even really human. Not even really human so much. And she said that was fairly accurate for anyone in her time who was the leader of, most of them, leader of a country, especially one with such enormous difference between the lower, what would be considered, a lower class, or not lower class. That doesn't. No. That's what. Yeah, she's saying lower class, but I'm saying just person without means. Person without means. Yeah. What? Yeah. Person without means. Okay. Or power. Okay. Yeah. So you're going through that now. Okay. Then Attila the Hun. Yeah, you're going kind of way back there. Okay. So you're just showing me, you're showing me some type of helmet, right, and force, and you're just showing, you're showing me just going through and wiping out everything, wiping out fields, wiping out people, wiping out enemies, wiping out territories, and that, and what was your? And that was just it. That was your modus operandi, right? Is just devour what you didn't want to have on the planet, right? And to amass whatever you could on top of it, right. And you're saying what are you saying? And it was kind of the military army, and it was. So you're saying that that's all you could focus on. That's all you could focus on was killing, pillaging, and taking what you could, and gaining whatever lands you could. Right. Okay, and then how are you dealing with that now? Have you resolved that? Are you? Okay, so you're saying are you male? Are you saying you're male? Right? Yep. You're male. You're kind of. Okay. You're kind of not male or female. The energy that you're presenting right now is not neither nor. Right. Okay. So you're kind of showing me that you're not transforming, but transitioning to a different plane kind of level for you in your development. Okay. yeah. So you're not identifying as either one. Right. Okay, so, but what are you thinking now? What are you thinking now? Okay. So they're saying they have resolved that lifetime. They have resolved that lifetime. They are working on, no, what? Yeah, they're saying something about making amends for that type of energy, but they're saying, no, they've worked through all that now at this point, and they are transitioning over to a different frequency or a different type of energy where you are not really an individual. Yep. So you're kind of, you're heading into a group energy. Good point. Okay, so they're saying that they're in some type of transitioning group energy, and a lot of the fellow spirits in this group have had very similar past physical lives. Now they're saying, obviously, we're talking to individual spirits who are having a physical life on Earth right now, and they're saying, yes, so being in a physical life is very important, obviously, because you're experiencing it. But once you get back into spirit and you haven't been in a physical life for a while, then that kind of fades, right? That type of need or that type of memory kind of fades. And they're saying that happens even if you're in the physical. What? You want to say what? Yeah. So every day, things that happened to you when you were a small child, you don't think about anymore, and that memory fades, and you don't really have a connection to it as much, right? And so this energy is saying it's very much similar to what they're experiencing. It's something that was, they could deem it a past, very, very, very long past, and they don't really focus on it, but they're saying. This is where they're at now. Okay, great. And Caesar? Yep. Yeah. So we're just trying to get a sense of maybe what you can remember about being in that space in a physical life and where you are now. Okay, Caesar? Yeah. Well, you're very powerful still, very strong presence still. And well, you're saying you were smart. Yeah, you were smart, and you had one of those types of minds where you could so you could plan and figure out ahead of time what might happen in a situation, and that made it military. And also you could figure out at times what your competition, who your competition was, and what their strategies might be. And you had a lot of spies. You're saying you had a lot of spies, right? But you were obviously betrayed at the end, right? Right. So, so that was what? Yeah, well, he was saying he was overdoing being Caesar. Yeah, you were just overdoing it too much, and that was your ultimate demise, right? So you were playing Caesar too well. And it was, so that was your downfall, right? So, so you're saying if you had pulled back and maybe been a little more, willing to work with people and not had such a focus on your pumping up yourself or so you're kind of showing yourself like Caesar being an entity unto itself, right? And when you get in such a powerful position and you get rid of your enemies, you're saying that you're really pumping yourself up, right? So you're saying as well that, and I think, Catherine, you were saying this too, you get pumped up or propped up by those around you, right? And that is ultimately what helps secure your positions, right? Because you can't do it just on your own. You have to have help in order to get to these type of positions, to keep the position. Catherine's pointing out if you're some type of royalty, you could be born into that position, but then you're going to need assistance in keeping that place, right, in whatever society you might be in. And Caesar is saying the same thing, right? But Caesar's saying that he paid people off too. You pay people, and of course for their loyalty, and that, he said, didn't always work out, but he did instill fear, and and he had no qualms about having somebody done away with. And I think, well, can you all say, yeah, and they're all saying that. They're all saying that. If somebody got in their way, they had no qualms about that. Okay, so yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So, yeah, so did you come in thinking that this was going to, who you were going to be? Okay, they're trying to get back their memories. Okay, they're saying it was also circumstance. Kind of led them to, well, Catherine's a little different, but, well, it's true, circumstances. So they're saying it was a little bit of everything, okay? It's not necessarily maybe one event they're saying for something, but they are saying it was, no, yeah, we've talked about in other lives, insecurity. Some people who have to amass power and subjugate others, it is a form of insecurity, is it? So I'm asking you, do you feel that's a form of insecurity or not? Okay, yeah. So they're all saying yes, and it is in a way. Because you get to a certain position where you have the most power of anyone around you, and you do get insecure because you don't want to lose it. And there, in Caesar's case especially, he knew that there were plots against him all around him. Yep. And so he had to be on hyper mode, basically, in order to quell or to stop somebody from doing that. And what Catherine went, yeah, and she's saying the same thing with her. She had amassed so much power and wealth that she could do whatever she wanted, but there was always going to be the case of somebody trying to upsert you. Right. In her case, that would have been very, very kind of tough. That would have been very tough. And she knew it. But you always have to have that on the back of your mind. But is it like a personal insecurity? Yeah, where you feel, and they're saying, well, it's kind of that, but it's an insecurity in your position because you know that it can always at some point be taken away from you. And what could happen to you after that fact. So you get to the point where you'll do anything to keep your life and to keep your place and to keep your wealth, okay? And your power, right? Because, yeah, and how important is wealth to these type of lifestyles? Or these type, not lifestyles really, but lives, yeah. Physical lives, right. Okay, what? Okay, so they're saying very important, because wealth is power, right? Wealth is power. Okay, so if you don't have wealth, you're not going to have much power. You're not going to have much power because you have to have the palaces. You have to have and you collect the wealth from the marginalized class. That's what they're saying now. Yeah, marginalized classes, right? So yeah, in Catherine's case, it was serfs, right? And so, yeah, and then with, and slaves in Roman times, right. So it was, so you're amassing wealth from others who are considered subservient to you. And did you have any problems with this? No, they didn't. They didn't have any problems with it because that was, again, that's what Caesar's saying too. You don't really see them as individual people. You see them as uneducated. And no education probably, comes from the fact that you didn't allow the education, right. And so that would be easier, because educated people are going to be able to read or if they can read and find out and and think for themselves, right? Because they're going to have a basis of history. So that's not allowed, and that's what happens. A lot nowadays. They're saying, it's going back. They're going back to that. They're saying a lot of places are going back to that, or just not. You're not having access to any type of, what? And they're saying also. Back when they were, Romans did have ways of communicating, obviously, and they traveled a lot, so they did have information about other places. But Catherine's saying, yes, anyone in Russia at the time when she was queen would not have had any news, would not have had any education. And Attila, what? Same type of, Attila, you traveled, but you were, basically an army. So it was a little different. It was that type of situation. Okay. Okay. So let's get back to, did you plan any of this? Did you plan any of this life where you were, upset? Would you say you were all obsessed with power? Does it become something that is an obsession? Like, power, wealth, and it's immaterial. You're saying kind of how you go about that. If you, if others die or what. So what are you saying? They're saying that's pretty fair. That they were, it becomes an obsession, and like Caesar's pointing out again that you do get very, very frightened about losing your place, and it does become an obsession to keep the power. And and I'm also trying to get a sense from all of you. Did you ever have a time, maybe, or think to myself, is what I'm doing wrong? Is what I'm doing, maybe, should I think about this? Did you ever have that? Okay, Catherine. No, not really, because again, and they're saying times were a little bit different, but it's still happening. They're saying it's still happening, but they were just so consumed with their own selves, okay, consumed with their own power, their own selves, and again, they had big support systems to back them up, right. But so they're saying, but it wasn't all rosy, because they were always having to have, again, this fear that something would come and take it all away from them. So they did whatever they could to hold on to it. Okay, so let's get back to you coming into these bodies from spirit. Now that you can look back on these lives in spirit, or from wherever you are right now, where do you see the change, or was it not a change? Is that something you planned all along? Okay, I'm just going to get a sense of all three of you to save time. Okay, so, well, kind of Catherine's saying she knew she was destined for something very powerful, and being a woman, that was important to her, right? Being a woman, so she was going to kind of trailblaze being a woman and being a powerful woman. And, and you're saying, like, you wanted to have the difference between, being a powerful woman with men to kind of do whatever you wanted them to do. So it was a gender type of thing for you too, right? Even though, you're saying you did like men, but they were always going to be subservient to you. And you knew that. Okay. And anything else? So you knew that you were probably going to lead a high profile life, and you knew you did have some inclination about what that was going to be. So you did kind of plan some of that. Now, so, and here's a good question. Now, is this because it was completely different from who you were in spirit, or why did you choose this? Okay. And Caesar, okay, hold on. So Caesar is saying he knew you were, at the time you were coming in, because you pick, obviously, the time you're coming in and what's going to be, and kind of the area you're going to be in, and that can always change. You can move or do something like that. But you knew that military was going to be big for you. You knew that, And, and he said because you're showing your brain working. So you knew that you were going to have astute, you were going to be very astute. You were going to be, you're showing like a mathematical brain that could figure out, and you felt that you were going to be smarter than those around you in some sense. So okay, so you're saying all that you kind of had an idea about your abilities in that physical life you were coming in, maybe a few points about what you wanted to accomplish, maybe not always, maybe not 100% sure how you were going to go about it, right? So it could have gone, so they're saying, yeah, they did have a sense of what they wanted, maybe goals that they wanted to achieve, maybe not 100% about how they were going to go about it. So they left that open a little bit. But they knew that they were going to be, okay, yeah, did you all know that you were going to be powerful figures, well-known powerful figures? And they said, what? Okay, Catherine, yes. Attila? Yeah. So they're saying they all had some idea that that was what they were going to do. And have you all led many, many physical lives? Is that part of, yeah. Yeah, they have. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, because I'm also wanting to, ask, yeah. So if you're coming into one of these physical, powerful lives that basically you have all become historical figures, do you have enough, a lot of experience, I would like to ask, being physical, and working your way up to being somebody who reached, yeah, vast amounts of space, or individuals or groups. Yeah, they're saying, yeah, you do kind of need a certain amount of experience in order to come into these lives that are very notorious, or it's more reaching vast amounts, or making a difference in vast amounts of people, individuals, groups, continents, areas. So they're saying usually you have a fair amount of physical lives under your belt, in order to be able to accomplish something like that. And they're saying they all had the choice whether or not their power would be put to good use, bad, or yeah. So they're saying they were all aware of that. They were all aware of that they could have done good for their countries. And it's not like Catherine's feeling like she didn't do some good things, but she was obviously a form of a dictator. Yeah. But she considered what she felt she did good for the country in her own opinion. Right. Others who were not getting, or who were not recipients of that, would have felt otherwise. Right. Okay. So, yeah. Anything else? Anything else? Okay. Yeah, I'm just, hold on a second and see if anyone wants to come in. Okay. No. Okay, no one else is coming in. Okay, so we've looked at kind of spirits and, and let's look at the spirit aspect of this, okay? Because in spirit, like I said before, you're kind of a blank slate when you want to start a physical life. And things will change, okay? Things will change. You can come down to a physical life, and like I said, you could meet somebody. Usually the people who you meet who really change your life, and who feel very familiar to you, are somebody who you plan to meet. Now, that's not always the case, but there's a good chance that that's what's happened. And you could, let's say you planned on being a dictator of some country, and this person was going to help you do it. Or somebody powerful in a country. Yeah, do you plan on being a dictator? But, you meet this person, and then for some reason that it doesn't work. Something else happens. And so that segue into this life that you were thought you might lead is changed, and you become a doctor or something like that. So they're saying that, and I'm saying too, it's all about based on your decisions. Okay, it's based on your decisions. You can come into a physical life and have some goals that you would like to meet, and yet part of this could be, part of this could be is that you're very caring, and very caring, open, and love. Well, you are in spirit. You are love. You are love. But you're wanting to experience something completely different when you come into the physical. And that's why you come into the physical. And then you have all these options to decide who you want to be. And then you make one decision based on this other decision, and then things go in a certain direction. But they're saying what's important to remember is you always have a choice. Okay, you always have a choice. Okay, so if you hear somebody saying, I was a dictator, but I didn't have any choice. Well, then you can question that, because everyone has a choice. And it's important to remember that. And it's important to realize that the responsibility for all of your choices lies within you, right? Right. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Do we have anything else we wanted to cover about this? Okay. Maybe. Yeah, you want to look at what's happening modern. Well, this is what's happening in modern time. Yep. Yeah, people are coming in. People are holding on to power because they are insecure. They are fearful. Yeah, and okay, yeah, okay. Well, let's look at that. Like the need to dominate others. Okay, the need to dominate others. Okay, and is it all based on? Okay, let's ask our guests. Okay, yeah, the need to dominate others that's part of the power trip, right? That's part of the power, the trip of holding on to their power. You can't be powerful if you don't have anyone to dominate over, right? There wouldn't be any sense to that. You need somebody to dominate over. So part of their quest in this type of life is to dominate other people. Yep. And okay, wait, hold on. Yeah, I'm getting. Yeah. So that's one of the ways that, yeah, they're saying they can hold on to this power. And yeah, and hold on. Yep. Okay, yeah. So they're saying, how do you choose that? How do you choose to choose whatever you are? Yeah, whatever group that you are going to. It could be a religious group. Yeah. So a lot of these people who are in power. Okay, so they're saying you pick who you think you can get away with the easiest, right? Right. So if it's going to be a religious group or the one that you feel that you could make the most out of, right? Basically, it could be a religious group. And they're saying it depends on where you are, because if you're in an area where religion plays a big part of the daily existence of the people in that society, then you might opt for a religious, quashing other people who are in a different religion from yours. Yeah. So that would be a no-brainer. They're saying you would do that. If it's a country or that has military force, then you would use a military to stop rebellions. And usually they're saying it's those, like they said, people who are lower income, who don't really have a voice, who aren't really in a powerful position. So you're going to do what you can. And so they're saying it's all holding on to power. It's all, and it depends on where you are, how you go about doing that, and who you are going to dominate. Right. So that's what it is. That's what it is. Oh, yeah. And they're also saying, well, you're saying, yeah, and it also depends on, especially nowadays, the political system. Right. So if there's a political system that you need to overthrow because you have to stay in power, then you might go that route. So they're saying it's pretty much based on where you are, how you choose to go about it, and you will use the source that's most available to you, right? And they're saying it really doesn't. Well, they're saying the people who are doing it may feel like religion is a big factor, and they're doing it because they really feel that their religion is the best religion. But in general, it's more of a power grab. Yep. Well, they're saying they could be a religious zealous and really feel that their true God is what is prompting all of this to happen. But in general, they're saying they really just want to hold on to their power, and they'll use whatever means that is going to work the best for them. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Yep. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to thank my guests for coming on the show today and sharing your experiences with us. And thanks for I'd like to thank everyone in the studio here for being a support system for me. Yep. Okay. Yep, signing off. I'm going to sign off. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the show today, and I'll see you soon. Oh, yeah. Here I am. I'm back. Okay, what? Oh, okay. Yeah. So Diane is asking, Okay, yeah, we didn't talk about that on the show. No. Okay, what about people who come in and have these very powerful lives in order to create change? Okay, so let's say, yeah, for those already living on the planet. So let's say you come in and you are a dictator, and you, yeah, and you do kill people or take money or do whatever to stay in power. But are you also doing that knowing that you are helping change those around you? So changing opinions about people who may have thought that they wanted this type of, well, who wants a dictatorship? But some people do, in order to make change. So, yeah. So, and we have all, it's happening on the earth right now. It's happened throughout history. And Diane also is asking, okay, how often does it need to happen before society or humanity says, okay, we've experienced this so many times, do we still have to keep doing it? Right. And that question would be yes, because you are still experiencing it. So there are those on the planet who, for some reason, and it could be, let's look at that a little bit, because it could be, and everyone, when they come into a physical body, is at a different level, level of experience, let's say that, and frequency. So, I mean, if you've kind of transcended through certain frequencies and experience, when you come down into a physical life, you're going to have a different viewpoint, usually. Others who have not had that much experience might be on a different track than you, okay? And that's not always the case. But, so it could be that individuals who maybe 10 lives back felt the need to experience something, and now they've moved on from that. But others who are coming in who maybe don't have as much experience still would like to experience that. So that's part of that. Okay, that happens. Okay, but yes, to answer your question, Diane, yes, if you are experiencing it as humanity on a planet, then you are not done experiencing it. There are some who still would like to experience it for whatever reasons they've got. And yes, it can be true. And it has been true that many who come down and lead these very powerful historic lives, who have killed millions, who have left their mark in a not positive way at all, have done so in order to change. Hoping to change humanity so that humanity will not have to experience it again. But it seems that humanity is not quite at that point. And so, so it is, and you do. When you come down to this physical body, you know what the options are, basically. You know what the options are. You know what you could be. And everyone could be coming down saying, I really want to make, everyone does come down saying, I really want to make a difference most of the time. And you want to change what's happening around you. Now, there are some who will do it, like I said, at a very powerful, very well-known way, and they will have the ability to do that. And and they could have that idea that they're going to do this, even though it is going to be very, pseudo-destructive to their well-being as a spirit, knowing that they are going to have to take this brunt on. But they're doing it in order to help humanity raise its vibration and say, okay, well, we do not want to experience this again. But again, humanity does have the sense of when it's not within your lifetime and you haven't really experienced it, then humanity tends to forget, and they need to relive it again. So and what? Okay, So Diane's asking me from where she's at. Is there a time when humanity is going to be done with this? And that, I cannot answer that for you. It is going to have to be something that everyone who comes into a physical body needs to answer and decide for themselves. Right. But it's also important now that anyone who's viewing this has the opportunity to change things, right? You have the opportunity to change things if you want to, right? And in order to, and you all know that, you all know that, but it's also an important choice. It's an important choice, right? Right. Whether or not you do nothing, you do what you can, or you go with whatever flow is important to you, right? So yeah, you're all here to experience what is going on, and it's up to you to make choices based on that. Okay, is that it, Diane? Is that it? Okay, yeah, okay, I'm going. Okay, bye. Yeah, bye.